Welcome back to the Open Mic Broadcast Network, the radio guy, Dr. Mike Prince. We have our football expert guru, Coach Heights. Northern Coach, how you doing today, sir?
I'm doing fine. Trying to, like I said, get some things wrapped up. I got a couple birthdays coming up and a wedding anniversary. My dad's birthday is next week. My birthday is on Valentine's Day, and then my wedding anniversary is on the 21st of this month. So you got to try to do some strategic planning on how you gonna get things in and out the house, and try to make it look nice for your wife and all that kind of stuff.
Right.
For Valentine's Day, and then the wedding anniversary, we'll be celebrating 20 years this week. So,
yeah, young man, that's all right, man. That's all right. 20 years strong. That's good. That's good. Now, look, they're all important days, man. All important days. But trust me when I tell you, the most important day, if you don't remember nothing, man, you better do something for that Valentine's Day.
Well, they always say I end up losing because my birthday is on Valentine's Day. So what we usually do is she usually takes me out to dinner for Valentine's Day, and then sometimes we'll bring the kids along, depending on their schedule or what day of the week it is, and then I take care of the wedding anniversary. And I actually tried to get married on Valentine's Day, but the church had already been booked up before we got married. So that would have made it super easy for me.
I know that's right. Well, look, I wish you well and congratulations, young man. We got a lot to get caught up on. First, let me say, last week, and I heard you chuckle when I said football expert guru, but the pudding, they say the proof is in the pudding. That recruiting piece we did on last week was a very great responsive approach. And as a matter of fact, we're going to have a part 2 starting today on some things. Yes. There was so much that was going out there. But man, how are you accepting this fame, if you would, man? It's almost like, man, where was all this love when I was out there coaching, right?
Man, you know what? I sort of understand it. Being a coach's son, you understand how much people, love you and hate you, and that love-hate relationship can change from one play to another. Sometimes you could be the smartest coach in the world, and you go to the dumbest coach in the world. Like say, everybody was loving the Detroit Lions coach because he had some moxie and some belief in himself, and then when it mattered the most, they wanted him to change his stripes, as they say. That man did what he's done all along, and he didn't change, because I think sometimes if you do change, your players look at you a little bit different. So, now having thought about it, he probably would think, well, I should have done this, but, he did what he's always done, and it didn't work out. And, a lot of people would say you have to think about the law of averages. Sooner or later, you can have success doing something, but you're going to always revert back to the mean at the end of the day.
Absolutely. I was talking to a buddy of mine, and he was complaining about that very thing. I said, well, look, man, all you got to do is go back to his track record. He didn't change who he was. He did everything that he did. He, as the old saying, you dance with the one that brought you there. And that's what he did. It just came up a little bit short. But when you look at all of this, and we'll jump into it, because we want to talk a little bit about the advantage of participating in these Senior Bowls and these Legacy Bowls that will be coming up here. This Senior Bowl, of course, is this weekend. The Legacy Bowl will be on the 24th. But back to this recruiting piece, there was so much that we covered, then so much more yet to be covered. And we'll pick up between now and then. And I try to stay away from these particular topics because, I'm the old man, of course, and get off my lawn. Get over yourself, old man. It's a different time, a different era. But and even you're becoming the old man. So you're the young old man right now. So you're becoming the old man. So you're going to start hearing this soon. But when it comes to recruiting, Coach, and of course we know you got NIL, transfer portals, everything else that's involved with that. How or what would you or could you do now, an adjustment to how you used to been doing something when you were coaching and recruiting?
Well, one of the things that some people are doing, they have a coach or a person that's basically responsible for roster management. So you say you're hearing now some of the schools have a general manager. That wasn't heard of, 5 years ago, less more, 10 years ago. So, they basically have somebody that all they do is just go through the transfer portal on a daily basis or whenever it's open, but then they're also responsible for, they'll take on a little bit more role of the high school recruits, and they'll create more of a draft board instead of an old school position by position board. So, and the NIL part is people are using it not what it was intended to be used for. So originally NIL was supposed to be for, just say, okay, my senior year when I was in school at Southern, they were selling my jersey at the bookstore and a store in the mall in Baton Rouge. Well, if they would have had NIL back then, I would have been able to make some money off of those jersey sales. Or because I was, my family was well known in Baton Rouge, I could have been able to go to the local seafood place. Or my mom and dad were real good friends with one of the black-owned restaurants in Baton Rouge. So I could have went to that guy and say, hey, I would wear your shirt, or if you give me X amount of dollars, I'll make sure that the guys on the team will come here after the game. And, there's different ways. But now it's just, all right, let's offer these guys $100,000 to come to our university. And as a part of that $100,000, maybe once a week they will have to do an interview with XYZ, or they may have to post something from this business. Just say if you at Prairie View, they may say you have to post something about the Wilder County line, or you have to post about Buc-ee's on your Instagram or your Twitter page or something like that. That's what it was intended for. Now it's just saying, we're going to offer you money. You come play football for us, and then you get to keep your Pell Grant, your cost of living, all that other type of stuff that was done a little bit below the table. Now it's like all out in the open. So that's one thing that's totally different. People have general managers or transfer portal guys or whatever, and then they have the recruiting department where that's all they do is have someone to stay in contact with the high school kids, but scour the internet for guys that are, maybe in the portal, a guy that may be a very highly sought after guy in his first or second year of school somewhere that's unhappy about playing time somewhere else. So it's a whole lot of different things dealing with that transfer portal and NIL now that, like I say, 5 years ago, you never heard the title of a general manager in college football.
Well, I know also that for the most part, when you're recruiting a high school kid or even a transfer student, you're dealing with the parent who serves as the quote-unquote agents. But now, with the way things are, these guys are actually now hiring agents along with their parents to get some of these deals done. Now, how would you deal with that?
Well, that's a whole other ball game, having to deal with the agents, and then they have the social media quote-unquote experts that can tell a kid, okay, this is how you should be monetizing your name, image, and likeness. So you have to deal with those people sometimes. Then you still have the uncle, the AAU, or now with football, it's the 7-on-7 football coaches that are more involved in sometimes than the high school coaches. And that's creating another divide with especially in the state of Texas, because they high school coaches think they invented white bread. And then you have some that, want to be in charge of everything dealing with their guys. But some of those kids may feel more comfortable with the 7-on-7 coach, like I say, just like AAU basketball. And because these high school coaches in the state of Texas can't control that, they are trying to, get away from the 7-on. Oh, we don't want that. That's not helping our kids. but in the big scheme of things, it is helping them because now guys are traveling, they're getting in front of people and all that. So, like I say, to answer your question in a nutshell, you have to just maybe take one person on your staff that's going to deal with quote-unquote agents only. One coach on your staff that is going to deal with the NFL side of things. One coach on your staff may deal with more with the high school coach, and you sort of dibble and dabble in a little bit of it because at the end of the day, you still have to some kind of way trying to find a way to coach football. And it's getting harder and harder for some coaches with a limited amount of staff, that's especially the ones that are not creative and can say, hey, I want some student coaches. Give me some guys that may, because of injury or whatever, cannot play football or, height and weight don't let them play football, but they want to be around a football program. So you may find some guy, look, this is what you're going to do, and you're going to tell them exactly how to do it, and then they sort of get their teeth cut off of, college football, and they get to be around a college football program. But it's going to take up so much of your time. You almost have to find somebody else, or you almost have to outsource some of those things now if you want to, as they say, keep up with the Joneses.
Right, and that outsource also rhymes with resource, and a lot of these people willing to say would want to, they want to be paid something, even if it's nothing but a hamburger and a drink. And so to orchestrate that with what your experience tells you and the staff that you've had access to, you're going to have to add yet another layer to maybe a running back coach, a quarterback coach, special team coach, to do some of these extra, if not multiple tasks in order to get the job accomplished, right?
Yeah, and like they say, and it's not just at HBCU, but, they had the old saying, they hire you for one thing, ask you to do three things, and pay you for half of it. So it's always something. Like they say, duties as assigned, that comes with those duties as assigned. But at the end of the day, the old saying goes, and I tell my son this too many times, the great equalizer is how much time you have in a day. And you have to find a way to use it to the best of your ability, and you have to find a way to prioritize. Okay, what is important right now? What can I put off, or what has to be handled right now? And we would always tell our coaches, pretty much everywhere I've been, if a player comes to your door, no matter what you're meeting about, that player comes first and foremost, whether you watching film, you could be on the phone with the university president, whatever it is, players are the top priority in our program. Then after that, everything else is second. Well, and then, sometimes we'll tell them, look, your wife and kids, they going to be up there, but sometimes they not going to come in front of those players. But it's like, just that understanding that you have to have as a football coach, that, players come first over pretty much anything else that's involved in the program.
Absolutely. We're talking right now with Coach Heist Northern, our football expert guru in the art of recruiting, part 2. Coach, have you ever experienced this? There's a guy who's on your board, at the top of the chart above everyone else, and you set up a visit with this guy, you talk to him, and when you meet him in person, there's just something like, no, this dude is not going to work with me. Have you ever been, just turned off by a guy that you had high hopes for until you meet him in person?
Yes, and that happens, I would say, way more often than you think. And for us, and I would say, when I say us, I'm talking about black men trying to help other young black men. A lot of times for me, it was the way that guy talked to his mother, or the way that guy carried himself. If the mom had to keep repeating herself to her son, that was somebody that you knew you were going to struggle with. Because if a guy don't listen to his mama, especially if it was a single family household, you're not going to be able to get in good with that. It may be his third year of college before you can get in with that guy. The other thing was like how some guys carried themselves. If, I'm not a big fan of flip-flops. I'm not a big fan of undershirts in public. I'm not a big fan of sagging pants. So, I would tell guys, like, hey, man, you on a job interview, that would be one of the first things I would say. So if I had to repeatedly tell a guy, like, hey, man, put your pants up, then that was a guy, another, like they say, that's a red flag. My sister-in-law just threw this thing, a pink flag. It might not be red, but it's on
the way.
Close. It's getting close to that red flag. So, just those types of things that you may see and be like, do I want to take this project on besides, the kid being a good athlete? Then, that's when the relationship with the coaches, like, is that coach telling me the truth about this kid just to make his kid look good, or is he telling me the truth about this kid knowing that if he tells me everything, I'm not going to take this kid? So what's the real story on this kid? Has he had discipline problems? So, and a lot of schools, you're not going to be able to see that in the guidance council or the principal's office because the coaches handle so much in-house discipline at school. So, it's those types of things, just the relationship with the mom and how they carry themselves that'll make me say, nah, Coach, I know everybody like it, but Coach, this is going to be a little bit more than what we think it is.
Right. Well, to counter that as well, Coach, because we're in what they call the Gen Y, Generation Y, soon to be Z deal. When they say, well, Coach, that's kind of unfair. You got to let people be creative and accept them for who they are and where they are, and you can't just be trying to change people. That's the problem with the society now. We're trying to mold people to what we think they should be instead of accepting them for who they are. How do we address that?
Well, the thing is, you have to realize eventually that young person is going to be representing you. So, and your university when you on a road trip. So you have to think about, like you say, can you trust that person with your paycheck? Because essentially, that's basically what you're doing. If you're saying, Coach, I'm going to bring this kid, you are saying, I would put my paycheck on the line for this kid. So that's one of the things that you have to think about now. We don't want all robots and you can't have all choir boys, but at the same time, there's certain things that you better know or have a good idea what you can deal with or what you're bringing in to your campus and into your locker room from a personality standpoint or from a behavior standpoint. Because the minute that guy, just say if you bring a kid in from Jack Gates High School, the minute that he shows up on Prairie View campus and if that kid does something negative, they're going to say Prairie View football player. They're not going to say, Gabe Northern, Heights Northern, son of Veronica and Lord Northern. They're going to say Prairie View football player. And you don't want the news starting off with one of your guys. And I used to tell people this. I remember, I'm not going to say the young man's name, but I recruited a kid out of Booker T. Washington High School in Shreveport my very first year at Grambling. This kid made All-State at wide receiver and DB, but he couldn't get eligible his first year. And, everybody loved him, was one of the best kids, athlete-wise. Man, that joker was leading the news off in Shreveport, Louisiana, had broken into a car auction place and stolen a car and was driving down I-20. And I'll never forget that as long as I live. Like, man, I done brought this dude to the university, and the year after he would have been playing for us, he's leading the news off in Shreveport, Louisiana.
Wow.
Yes.
Well, you probably said it without saying it, Coach. Who it was? Somebody's going to Google that out and find that part out.
Oh, yeah.
But when you look at this thing, and we know, like you said, you got to have a mixture of personalities and talents that make up a team. You're not going to have a bunch of robots. Everybody's not going to do things right all the time. And there's always going to be somewhat of an exception to the rule where there's going to be a guy. They say, well, I need you all in at 10 o'clock. He's going to come in at 11. There's going to be somebody say, get 2 helpings. He's going to go for 3. when is a cutoff point? When is enough? You're like, look, your talent is great and is needed, but it's not lining up with your behavior.
I usually left it up to the guys on the team, as crazy as it may sound, because they have to be around the young man way more than I do as a coach. So we had a council. So we basically had 4 seniors, 3 juniors, 2 sophomores, and 1 freshman. And if we had a young man that was continually missing workouts, continually maybe getting in trouble, having grade issues or whatever, then I would call those guys to a breakfast. I think we would do it on, I want to say either Monday or Tuesday morning sometime. And we would like, hey, I need to see you guys. You guys come eat breakfast with me in the cafeteria. And we would talk about, all right, give me a reason to keep him. Give me a reason to let him go. And everybody's voice was equal. And I would tell him, you guys have 51% of the vote on, and I had a 49, or sometimes I might say it's 50-50. Or, the ratio may depending on who the young man was, what was his classification, and was he important to the team. Because I would tell guys, I don't want to make a decision to hurt the team, and you guys really want him. But I would tell him this: if this joker stay, then he's on the team for good. It's not no next week I'm going to put him off the team. If you guys want him to stay, then you guys are basically going to be in charge of his discipline from here on out. So that's one of the ways that I would do it. We had a council to vote on keeping the kid or putting the kid off, just depending on what his infraction was, all those types of things. And it was some non-negotiables that I had. So if it was a young man that got caught selling drugs, not using drugs, selling drugs, if he was selling drugs, that was non-negotiable for me. If he hit his girlfriend, that was a non-negotiable for me. And that was pretty much the only 2 non-negotiables that I had that I can think of off the top of my head. But at the same time, I would tell guys, how do you go about, just say, if you know your girlfriend may want to put her hands on you, this is what you should do in order to protect yourself. So I'm going to talk to him about, getting a restraining order, letting the campus police know the first time she does it, because you don't want to, once you retaliate, if you have nothing on record, then that's not good for you either way it goes. So, like I say, you talk to him about, and then you talk to him about making good decisions in the woman that you choose. Don't just choose a girl because she look like the woman on the video. Choose a girl that's going to be able to help you in your classwork, that's going to make you a better person. And, those are some of the things, the life lessons that people don't see. But at the end of the day, it's going to help, like I say, keep your program out of the news.
Right. Coach, this is going to sound real crazy, but I remember talking to a coach many years ago, and he would say if he was going to recruit a player or a JUCO transfer, because the portal was nowhere around in my era. He said he would base a lot of his decision of if he would go with this guy if the guy had a girlfriend on how the girlfriend looked, because he said if the girl was pretty, he had confidence within himself. Have you ever heard of such a thing?
Man, I have heard coaches say that they looked at coaches on their staff wife to see if they were a good recruiter or not. I heard a coach also say, and not to get X-rated, he would ask guys on his staff, especially the senior guys, basically he would ask them, when was the last time you had sex? And if it was a long time and he hadn't hired that guy, he's like, that ain't a good recruiter right there. But I've definitely heard coaches say that they looked at coaches' wives or girlfriends to see if they were good recruiters or not. I've never heard the part about the girlfriend, but, you always say the better your girlfriend look, the better player you are.
Give me the rationale behind that, Coach, please.
Because if you look at it and you go be honest, the better players usually end up with the better girls. If you go to, I'll just say the next time you go to a basketball game, if this theory holds true, look at the basketball player's girlfriend. And my brother, he said, like, even in the NFL, he said the guys that got drafted in the first round, especially if they came to the NFL single, the women that were around them at the club looked different from the second and third round draft pick girls. You know, it's like the law of attraction, if you want to put it that way. But you know, I've heard that statement before. I've heard coaches say they look at their coaches' wives and see if they're a good recruiter.
Man, you talking about bringing a whole different meaning and value to analytics, man. That's
yeah. I mean, and people
crazy.
Swear by it. Some people swear by it. Like even in sales, I've heard people in sales say that. You know, if a guy was in pharmaceutical sales, if he don't have a pretty wife or a pretty girlfriend, he's not going to be a good salesman.
Wow. I guess that's almost to the theory that about the type of shoes that you wear, if a person can tell if you're a good money manager or not too, huh?
That's what they say.
Wow. Well, I guess we learn something new every day. Now, I want you to dig deep into your treasure chest right now, Coach, and reveal a couple of your secret recruiting tips that you use to gain an advantage when you out there in the recruiting game.
Man, I think the biggest thing is getting as much information as you can about, number one, the student athlete. I would say number two, the mom and dad situation. And then number three is a coach. So knowing about the student athlete, knowing what does the kid want at the end of the day, what is important to that kid in terms of, is he looking to stay somewhere close to home? Is he open to everything, or does he want to get away from home? You know, just say for some kids, especially a kid from a big family that doesn't have a lot of money, they may want to get away from home because they don't want to deal with having they've been sharing a room with their two little brothers or something like that their whole life. So they may want to get away. Or some kids may want to stay closer to home because they know they got mama at home, and mama may be struggling to keep his 12 or 13-year-old brother under wraps. You know, the ninth grade brother that's getting in trouble. I need to be around just in case mama say, come home, I need you to take care of brother or something like that. So, you know, just what is the kid looking for in his choice of a university? Then the next part is I say the mom and dad dynamic. How close is the kid to the mom, or, does he want to get away from him? Those are types of things. But the biggest thing is getting all the information that you can ahead of time before you, especially if you go on a home visit with a kid, to say what are the keywords, what are the buzzwords that person wants to hear to make them say, okay, I'm going to give you my child for X amount of years before they come and sign those papers. But the biggest thing is getting as much information as you can. I'll say student athlete, parents, and then from the high school coach. And the high school coach can, like I say, it depends on your relationship. Especially, I would always, especially the guys that I played with or had been dealing with since I very first got in coaching to when I, stopped coaching on the collegiate level. Some of those guys could call me, and I knew what they told me was going to be spot on about a kid if I didn't get a chance to see a kid height and weight-wise. And then some of it is going to be, do I really trust what this coach is telling me? Is he just trying to get somebody or get a kid from his school at the university that I'm at, or is he just trying to get a kid signed to no matter what? And this is the time of year, the last week of recruiting before signing day, that you start getting calls from the coaches that you might not have talked to that much, that had a kid that was supposed to sign with XYZ. At the last minute, they got bumped off the board, or such and such pulled a scholarship, and now you end up with a pretty good football player sort of falling in your lap. So, but the biggest thing is just getting information. It's not just one thing that I can say, I did this that helped me land this kid right here. It's just having information, knowing those buzzwords that the moms and the dads or whoever wants to hear, and knowing what that kid wants to hear that's going to make them say, all right, I really like this place. And then some of it is like matching kids up with the right person on a recruiting visit. You have some guys, they want to burn the midnight oil, and other guys, man, they really just want to just be out of the house and, play video games all day. With other guys, you got to think some guys that have been in junior college, they 21 years old, and they can drink when they come. And I would try to tell you, look at, man, don't drink on your visit, because however much you drink, you're going to drink more than you think you did, and that Saturday is going to be a miserable day for you. So you don't want to be in a recruiting meeting. Like I say, you don't want to be on a job interview hung over or having to go to use the bathroom because you have to go throw up or you got the upset stomach, And like I say, I real talk guy. I don't sugarcoat it. I may not curse when I talk, but I'm gonna tell you just like it is, from a factual standpoint. But I'm not gonna downgrade you. But I'm gonna tell you, look, man, this is what you need to do. This is what you shouldn't do, because in 2 or 3 more years, you're gonna go on a job interview, and they may say, okay, hey, you sitting at the table, would you like a drink? And my thing was, if your boss or whoever interviewed you don't order a drink, then you don't order one. And it's okay if you drink one and take a sip out of it, but don't guzzle your drink down and everybody else still sitting there. So, it's just like little things like that the life lessons that we teaching on the official visit.
Absolutely. Now, Coach, every now and then, more back then than today, you get a guy who's a super athletic guy, but they're nowhere near college readiness. I mean, and I know, that's where you direct them to JUCOs, this, that, and the other. But how do you deal with a guy that you really like? You like the physical look, they just got everything going, but they just really played because, they could, and it was just something to do, and they didn't really put emphasis on grades. They just played because it was there to play. How do you deal with trying to recruit a guy like that, or even protect them if you could, or hide them until they can get ready?
Well, it's no hiding them, but some of the things that we would do, just say, a lot of people may remember Anthony Beck. He was the safety on our championship team in 2009. Well, Anthony Beck only played 1 year of high school football. And it just so happened Anthony's high school coach was a guy from Baton Rouge, and he called me. He and I had, connected when I was at Grambling, and he was like, hey, Heist, I got a kid over here that's a great athlete, but only played 1 year high school football. He's a great basketball player. And I usually say, if a kid can play basketball, he can play football. So I go look at him. I was like, man, he's a 6-foot-tall kid that's very athletic, but skinny as all outdoors. When I'm talking about, I used to mess with Beck because I would say when he walked around with no shirt on, I could see his heart beating through his chest. So, you see it like that from time to time. And the thing is like, hey, man, you have to commit to getting stronger from day one. And it just so happened, I think his first year we had a safety get hurt about a week before the Labor Day Classic. And then we had another person that got hurt like maybe the Thursday before the Labor Day Classic. And Anthony Beck ends up being a kid that we really want a red shirt, but because of injuries, he ended up playing for us. He made it through the season, but, sometimes you have a guy like, look, I need you to lift weights instead of 2 times a week. You're going to lift weights 3 times a week. During the season, most college football players only lift 2 times a week, for those that don't know. But I'm going to need you to lift 3 times a week, and I'm going to need you to dedicate yourself to eating breakfast every day, no matter what. I need you with some, double your egg intake. I need you eating a high-protein diet, all those types of things, so you can be able to gain and keep weight, because a lot of guys lose weight as the season goes on because of the amount of work they're doing in practice, as well as they not lifting as much during the season as they're doing during the off season. So, you're not hiding the guy, but you have to have a plan for him. And it's a little bit harder at our place to have a exact plan for a kid because you may only have 2 guys working with your whole football team in a weight room, where you go to some weight rooms and there's 7 people in there, or is a person in there is a person in there that only works with DBs, a person that only works with linebackers, a person that only works with the offensive line when they come. So now you can see how guys get individual attention instead of the cookie cutter workout where everybody's doing the same thing. So it's just a matter of trying to have a plan and having a kid execute the plan.
Right. And today it's almost an insult to tell a kid you're going to redshirt them because everybody feels like they're that dude. And I think more than less, if we talk about NIL and we talk about the transfer portal, I think the egos are super large these days. And is that difficult to work through?
Sometimes, but you got to think about it. Most successful people have an ego because if they didn't have an ego, they wouldn't be doing what they do, or they would be crazy to think about, like say, having a thought that you can do it. I'll say my brother, for example. My brother was one of the smartest kids in the city of Baton Rouge, and gifted and talented. And my mom would tell him, do not write on those tests that you're going to be an NFL football player. Put something else on those tests when you say, what are you going to be? But like I say, he had it in his mind that, look, that's what I'm going to do. Now, mind you, even when my brother got to high school and college, my brother was the 6th ranked just linebacker or defensive end when he signed with LSU. And the thought of the 6th ranked guy in that one signing class at LSU thinking or having the audacity to think that he could make it to the NFL, So it's a whole lot that goes into, you have to think outside the box to even think that you're going to be a successful college football player, let alone make it to the NFL.
No, I get that part. I understand that part. But sometimes it's almost like I'm doing you a favor that I'm here type attitude, and you need to kiss the ring. That's what I'm talking about. To me, that becomes very detrimental to building a program.
Yes, I understand when you say it from that way. And one thing I've heard coaches say, we recruiting you, but you need to show us why we recruiting you or why are we here. It's not that, when we have other options, but you have to show us why. And you still have to put in the work once you get wherever you're going. So, but we're going to tell them, we're going to let you compete for a job. We're not going to give you a job. You have a chance to come in and compete for playing time. You're not going to automatically get playing time just because you're our number one recruit, or just because you played at X, Y, or just because you're a 4-star guy and you could have gone anywhere in the country. Nah, you got to earn what you're going to get around here.
Absolutely, and that's exactly what I'm talking about. We're talking with Coach Heise Northern, talking about putting in the work. Look, we got this Senior Bowl that's coming up on this weekend, and the Legacy Bowl on the 24th. And I know a lot of people put a lot of emphasis on the actual game, but there are so many hidden parts, moving parts before the game that really increases or decreases a person's stock when it comes to trying to get to the next level. Can you give us some insights on some of that?
Yeah, so, going back to my brother played in the Senior Bowl, I want to say it must have been in 1995, after the 1995 season. So I think his Senior Bowl coaches were the Chicago Bears staff. They wasn't very good at the time. And, the Chicago Bears were known as a very physical team. He said, man, their practices at the Senior Bowl was as close to high school or college tour days. But, you have the pro coaches coaching you at the Senior Bowl, which the Legacy Bowl, you have college football coaches coaching at the Legacy Bowl. And I think Coach McDowell was selected to be one of the coaches this year for the Legacy Bowl. But, they had 2 practices a day. My brother said besides the NFL Combine, the Senior Bowl was the closest that he could think he could know what a slave felt like being on the auction block, because he said you have to walk around tights, no shirt on. There's a guy there reading pretty much every injury that you've had since your freshman year of college. And he said, like, he had on his injury report that he had a shoulder injury, where they were basically like almost pulling his shoulder out of socket to try to see was it still bothering, because they look at it like it's an investment. But he said they had 2 practices a day, every day. NFL scouts standing as close to as possible without getting ran over from all the different teams. And he ended up getting MVP for the South team, but he didn't have a great game. You get MVP based off of how do you do during those practices for the and you can, you can, like they say, raise your stock up, or you can lower your stock down in the Senior Bowl. Now the Legacy Bowl, like I said, those are college coaches, but they have a lot of NFL scouts that are going to be at those practices. And come to find out, a lot of those scouts, they don't even stay for the game because they've seen so much throughout the week that they know, all right, this guy has done this. This guy has a great first step. The game don't matter because, the scheme is a little bit different than what you're used to. The plays are a little bit different. But the biggest thing is, for the HBCU guys in that Legacy Bowl, do you meet the height, weight, speed requirements? That's the first thing they're going to look at. As they say, do you pass the eyeball test? And then are you a motor guy? Do you play hard? Or do you try to get a lot of reps? Or once you get one win, do you not try to go again in a one-on-one situation? Or are you trying to go against a guy that's not very good instead of going against a guy that everybody thinks might get drafted in the 5th or 6th round? You trying to go against a guy as they say, can't play dead in the cowboy movie.
I know that's right. I know that. But well, Coach, what message is being received as versus perceived when a person opts out to play at some of these games?
Well, most of the time, if a person opts out of a bowl game, it is injury related, because you don't want to go and put a bad 40 time, which is probably going to, I say the Legacy Bowl, more so the 40 time is going to kill you or make you than if you go to the Senior Bowl. But most of the time, guys are not opting out unless they know they got a first or a second round grade. If they got a first round grade, they probably, depending on the position, they probably can opt out, but most of the time that's not going to happen. There's a lot of guys fighting to move up the draft board, so they're not going to turn it down unless they have an injury that they hadn't quite heard from. A guy may have had a knee scope in January and not quite ready now to go full speed, because they have time between now and the combine and now and the pro days to get ready to run or lift and all that type of stuff.
Okay, and I just thought about this while you were talking as far as skill positions, and I'm noticing, I'm wondering if you're noticing it, being as entrenched as you are, and I guess it's more or less from, the NFL ranks, and it kind of trickles down, but are you seeing schemes now going back to more taking advantage of tight end uses, 2 tight end, 1 tight end set? And do you see that as a trend in the future to kind of bring things back to what it used to be versus the continued spread?
Well, I think, I'm trying to think what game I was watching the other, and they were talking about how much they use 2 and 3 tight ends, because the thing is, if you have a good tight end, especially one that can run and still be able to catch, you have something that people are not used to dealing with, because he's going to be either too fast for the linebackers to cover, or he's going to be too big for the DBs to try to cover, especially if you have an accurate quarterback. So I can see it going back that way, but the only problem is it's going to be very a situation or a body type that you're going to have, because if not, people are going to say, well, why not just use a big wide receiver to do the same thing? So, you'll see guys that are trying to, like say, skirt that line. Are they a receiver or are they a tight end? So that's a weapon. I just know it gives you matchup problems. Like say, do you play nickel personnel when that guy's in there, or do you stay base? And a lot of it we say is based off of down and distance, but like I say, that'll be getting too much in the coaching side. How do you match up with people? Just depending on how where they are on the field and all that other type of stuff. But if you have a good tight end, you got something that people can't deal with a lot of times.
Right. It creates, as you say, a mismatch, and I think that's more of a schematic approach.
Yes.
Because that tight end would match up better with a linebacker, but that linebacker might not have the step to keep up with them versus a DB who would have the step but not the size nor strength to be able to handle the guy. So it can create a nightmare. And most people prepare for a running situation when they see the double tight end sets looking anyway.
Yes.
So I've been noticing that and figuring that thing out. Now, I think I may have tightened up some of the loose ends from the recruiting factor, unless I'm omitting something, Coach, and help me and jump in here if there's something I failed to ask you on or that you could bring up to memory that's jumping out for you right now.
Nah, the only thing that'll surprise some people are, I guess, some of the behind-the-scenes things that sort of like guys look at or parents look at, and like the quality of some of the facilities that a few schools in the SWAC have. So I'll just say, Prairie View has a very nice facility. And then you have some schools, the Mississippi Valley, whose a part of their facility is nice. Some schools have a real nice, what we call a player's lounge. And other schools may have a little bit more of a training room where they may have cold tubs, hot tubs, different things like that. Then some schools may have a real nice weight room, but the training room is not good. So it's a whole lot of that. Then you have to look into the locker rooms. Some of the schools have, locker rooms that you can pretty much, you wouldn't mind taking a nap in there. And other schools have locker rooms that the sooner you can get out of there, the more healthy you feel like you're going to be. So it's a whole lot that goes into it. And then the other thing is, what happens a lot of times at HBCUs is, just say, Texas Southern, from my understanding, is probably going to be one of the next ones to get a locker room or facility upgrade. But they have to make sure that they have people to maintain that building. Because, I know, just say, one school in particular got a fairly new facility, but they didn't put people that would clean it on a daily basis. So now you have something that's brand new, but you don't have people that come in and, clean out the toilets, make sure the floors are waxed and mopped, the light bulbs are changed. It's just different things like that goes into the facilities game. Yeah, you can get something new, but are you gonna keep it up? And that's mm-hmm. Some of the things that like I've talked to coaches about. I was told, I made a joke one time about when I was coaching at Prairie View, we wouldn't show kids Blackshear Stadium, our old Blackshear Stadium. That wasn't something that I would say, took pride in. Having to show a kid that's where we play our home football games, as real as it was. And some people didn't like the fact that I, would actually say that. Or, I would have our guys, like guys on the football team, like this time of year, I'm like, look, man, don't go home this Saturday. We're going to stay on Prairie View campus. I would talk to janitorial services, and I was like, look, we're going to clean the rotunda, the bottom part of the Baby Dome. We're going to clean the football locker room ourselves. We're going to clean, remember the coaches had the trailer out there? We're going to pressure wash the trailer. We're going to do some things. I may send some guys over to the football stadium. Y'all go pick up all the trash. And then what we would do after we finished that, we would do that, and then I might say, okay, I would talk to the guys in the cafeteria. it had about 3 guys from Louisiana that I could kind of like, hey, man, can y'all give me some hamburgers and hot dogs? Once the guys finish doing some community service, we going to go sit out there, and maybe if they were playing Texas Southern, or Grambling in baseball, you know, they going to go out there and talk noise like they really could play baseball. But I thought there were some things that could, you know, sort of unify the team. We doing something for ourselves, but that's going to make us take care of our own things because, you know, at the time the university may not have had people in place to help take care of it. But, you know, like you say, that facilities part is big, getting bigger, but, you know, you can't have a new facility or somewhat new facility and not be taken care of. You can't do an upgrade and then don't take care of your upgrade. You know, it's like you get your car reupholstered, but, you know, you don't ever vacuum your car out, man. That don't make sense, guys. Come on.
Well, I'm at a crossroad when I hear the word facility, because when I think of facility, I think of adequate weight room. I think of a strong locker room presence. I personally don't put too much emphasis on the actual stadium, and here's why. Number one, in most cases, that stadium is used 5-6 times a year, okay, and your time is going to be spent developing your program in that weight room, developing the camaraderie in that lounging part of it. And I would rather have more emphasis on those than actually playing stadium. And I know that sounds a bit crazy to some, but when you hear that, how does that line up to your philosophy?
Well, I'll tell you this. Before I became a head coach at Prairie View, I actually went to some people and asked them, could they do the field house before they started the construction phase on the stadium. And the reason why, you know, I had went to pretty much every 1AA school from Incarnate Word all the way to Montgomery, Alabama. So if you think I went to Stephen F. Austin, Sam Houston, Lamar, McNeese, Northwestern State, you know, all the HBCUs. I think the only HBCU I didn't go to was Mississippi Valley because I had been there already. But, you know, all those schools I went to, and I asked the coaches, okay, about how many days per year was somebody in your field house? And that was going to be probably in close to the 350 to 360 day range. Okay, how many times you use the stadium? If you don't practice in there, that was on, like you say, about 5 or 6. So, you know, that was my reason for asking to have the field house done before you even started on. So now people can see, because it's going to get done anyway, but let's get this done first, because the field house is way more important than the actual football stadium in itself. So I can say I would be in agreement with that, because of the amount of days that you are going to use the quote unquote facility minus the stadium. So
yes, sir.
I'm always be, you want your guys to want to be in your facility. You want them to want to be in the weight room. You want them to want to be in a training room. You want them to want to be in a players' lounge if it's not affecting their academics. You know, now,
right.
You know, schools had a players' lounge with video games, barbershops, and, you know, all that type of stuff in there. So it's moving in the right direction, but the most important part of the facility is the weight room and the training room. But you still want to have a nice locker room. But like I say, I would tell guys, you don't want to be in a locker room too much. And I went to one school, they were trying to put the players' lounge in the locker room. I'm like, man, what kind of sense does that? Who wants to, you know, play video games in a funky locker room? But like I say, those were smart people that were making that suggestion, though.
Okay. Well, you know, they say different strokes for different folks, right?
Yeah.
You know, so it is what it is. Well, Coach, believe it or not, man, we've gotten to the point now where we're going to have to close this segment out, and I want to give you some closing thoughts and comments, sir. We could, as I say, get ready for this Super Bowl week that's going to be coming up next week.
Hey man, the funny thing about it, is now is almost like the NFL is making people turn against Taylor Swift. So that's a whole nother ball game. How much they show her on TV, but now you're coming down to the last bit of football season with a little. It's gonna be a sprinkling of more football with spring football, then the spring football leagues, and like I say, the biggest thing for most college coaches is signing day coming up. And with all the movement going on, there's going to be a lot of coaches that's going to have to spend a whole lot more time in the office because of all the coaching changes that have gone on in the conference, where normally, your head coach may give you a few days to relax a little bit after being out on the road, but because of all the coaching changes, like people have to start doing their installs earlier to get ready for spring football. They have to get ready for the 6 a.m. or 5:30 a.m. workout. So there's a whole lot that's going on because of all the coaching changes that all these new staffs and movement that people are going to have to get ready for that they may not have had to do had some of those staffs stayed intact. So it's a rough time for the coaches, but like I say, ain't nobody going to feel sorry for them. That's what they chose to do. But it's a lot on the line at this time of year. It's a lot of games that can be won or lost in, the next few days with signing day. And then you have to think about, with guys working out in the morning and guys learning the schemes, that's going to be very important for them to make it throughout the season.
Yes, sir, and that's going to be part of our dialogue on next week. Lord, say the same, the creek don't rise. I want to talk about the actual signing day process, because by the time we get together, that will be behind us, and the introduction of new schemes. So I'm looking forward to that breakdown on what's to lie here, not only in the Southwestern Athletic Conference, but college football abroad. Coach, as always, man, I thank you so much for all that you do. He is our guru, the football expert, Coach Heist Northern. I am the radio guy, Dr. Mike Prince. You still laughing at that, Coach? Why are you laughing at that, man?
Man, just because it's like, to me, it's funny being called, hey, man, I just like football. I know football. Expert, guru. Now, the funny thing about it, if I get to talking to somebody, then, okay, I can tell, like, some people don't know pretty much what they talking about. And let me say one more thing, too, Mike. Doing this stuff on the media side, man, because I do this media with you, I get different stuff from around the conference. And, man, it is some seriously bad information that's being put out by people because they want to be the first one to say something. They don't care about being right. And and that makes me sort of be a little bit more jaded towards, I say, people, fans a little bit, because they say things that they think they know, and man, they could be no closer to the truth than left ears from right. But I mean, I appreciate you just for letting me sound off. But man, it's a lot of bad information in the name of entertainment or trying to be right. Not necessarily trying to be right, but trying to be first with this. With that. But that's sort of why I laugh. Because, no way do I think I'm a guru. Do I think I'm a good football coach that knows football? Yes, sir. But a guru, nah. But, I know what I'm talking about, though. I'm not just going to say anything. I'll put it to you like that.
Yes, sir. And we try not to say just anything. I'll say it like this, Coach. We're more accurate than inaccurate on what we report. Sometimes you get the right information, it just unfolds the wrong way sometimes. But we try to be very responsible here because it is an art, and it's a responsibility that comes with that art, and the what they say, the ability to handle some stories that are for the public and not necessarily for the public. So we appreciate you being a part of the process, and we're looking forward to it. And look, I'm always reminding you, man. Look, when you keep climbing on that star, don't forget us little folks here at the open mic, okay? See, you got quiet on me on that one, huh, Coach?
Nah, yes, sir. I got you.
He is Coach Heist Northern. I am the radio guy, Dr. Mike Prince. Do follow me on X. I almost said Twitter, but it's Twitter, X, whatever y'all know, at the Mike Prince Show. Subscribe to our YouTube channel at the Open Mic Broadcast Network, and visit our website, obnradio.com. And until the next time, you guys be blessed, and we'll see you on the other side.